everybody, and welcome to another Faithfully Creations video. Today I wanted to show you how I make my toilet paper roll albums. And I can't take credit for this idea originally. My good friend Emily, who you also know as Creating Serendipity, she first did it for a Pink by Design team post, and I loved it, and so she taught me how. And I have a couple of them to show you. This is what I call my peppermint and chocolate album, and it's bound. My rings are pretty covered, so I'm not sure if you can see this or not, but it's just bound with your basic binder rings, and then on the rings I added some tulle and ribbon. So this is the cover, and then you open it up like this, like this, like this. And the stamps I used in this particular album are from K. Andrew Designs. And then it also has little pull-out pages in the middle of the course that you can pull out for extra journaling or photo storage. And then the next one that I have to show you is the one I actually filmed making, and then my memory card was stupid and said it didn't recognize the file format. So this one is one I'm making for my mom as a keepsake / brag book for Christmas 2011, and this is also from K. Andrew Design Stamps. The Christmas comes from Winter Wishes, the 2 and the 0 come from Allyhoo, and the 11 are actually the exclamation points from the Halloween set. And again, I've just tied some ribbons to the binder rings to make it pretty. One other thing I did different with this album is I used a snowflake eyelet instead of the standard eyelets that I use, and then I just decorated this with alternating green paper and did a patterned paper cover. And this one, of course, is not finished. I still need to make the interior pages and embellish it, but I just wanted to show the basic construction of the album. And then when I went to upload and edit, the file was corrupt. So we're going to try this again. Anyway, so to start with, you're going to need 4 or 5 toilet paper cores. For this blue album I'm going to make, I have 4. And what you want to do is, well, what I do is I paint them first, and this is just basic tempera watercolor paint. I got, big jugs of it at Michael's when they were on sale for, I don't know, 5 for $10 or something like that. It was pretty cheap. And you paint the cores before you smush them. That way you can set the cores up like this. See, it's not going to stand up because it's flat now. But so you can stand them up so they can dry. And what I always do is I paint, I don't know if you can see this or not, I paint the insides too just a little bit, so when the pages pull out it's not totally ugly inside. And then once your paint dries, there are several ways that you can flatten your toilet paper cores. What I do now, thanks to a couple of my crafty friends telling me about ironing them, is I iron them. And I don't like the paint, I don't want to take the chance of the paint rubbing off on my iron or any ick from the iron getting on my iron or on my project. So I just lay a towel over it and I iron them flat on the highest setting without any steam, and they come out this flat, and this is pretty flat. So once you have them dried and flat, the next step that you want to do is seal your ends. And Emily sews hers, and I like to sew mine too, but I'm trying to squeeze this video in the next 45 minutes before my kids get home from school, and so I'm not willing to waste the time to pull the sewing machine down and show you how that goes. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use score tape. And I've done this long enough, I kind of know the width of the score tape needs to be. And you always want to make sure you apply your score tape to the end that you didn't paint inside of. You just kind of put it in the middle. Sealing the ends like this isn't really necessary. It's kind of just like a bonus measure because you're going to punch holes in it and set it with eyelets, and the eyelets are going to kind of seal it off too. Alright, and then what I like to do is take my bone folder. This one's gross. Take my bone folder over the edge just to make sure that that's good and squished and sealed. And as you can see, it's pretty tight. So you just go ahead and do that with all of them. I typically do, oh, that's a little too big. I typically do my albums with 4 cores, but you can do 5 or 6 if you want. You just need to change the size of your rings to accommodate however many pages you're going to use. I use 3/4 inch rings when I use 4 albums, or 4 cores, I mean. Oh, my adhesive stuck out a little bit, so I'm just going to trim that off. Important thing to remember when doing these albums, ask me how I know, is to make sure you keep them oriented the same way, and then you won't make the mistake of decorating a closed side and punching an open side. So I have all of the closed ends going on this side right here. These are all closed, closed, closed. Let's get my hair out of there. Like I said, when it comes to binding or sealing the ends, you could glue it with wet glue, you could use score tape like I'm using, you could sew it, or you could just call it good when you punch it and set your eyelets in the binding. It really is up to you. If I don't sew them though, I like to use the score tape. And this one doesn't want to come off. There we go. Alright. So now you have your 4 cores that are all sealed at one end. And then what I do is I line them up and check and make sure they're all even, because not all toilet paper cores are created equal. They will vary, and I have found that they even vary by brand. Like, we typically use Angel Soft toilet paper in my house, but not even from the same package, not even 2 toilet paper cores from an Angel Soft package are necessarily the same width and the same length. Okay, so that's going to be a pretty good album. Now, unfortunately, I lost my Crop-A-Dile. I can't find it anywhere, and so I'm not going to be able to show you how I bind it, but I can show you how you put it together and what you do to bind it. So I've decided to use these 2 papers. One is called Vintage Revisited Stamped Spots by Paper Adventures, and then the other is just some brown Coordinations cardstock. But first what I need to do is I need to measure my toilet paper core, because again, they're not all created equal. So they're not all going to be the same length. Like this one is about 4 1/4. By roughly 2 1/2. So that means you want your first piece of paper, if you want to leave a 1/4 inch background, you want your first piece to be 4 by 2 1/4, and I'm going to have that be this fun spot. vintage spots. So we're going to cut it at 4. By 2 1/4. And you need, if you want to do the same thing throughout the whole album, you need 2 per toilet paper core you have. So in my case, I need 8. 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. Then for your solid paper, or patterned paper if you do it backwards and you mat with patterned first, you want to go 1/4 inch smaller. So these are going to be 3 3/4 by 2. And you'll want 8 of these as well. Alright, so now you have your mats, and you can sew and add your cuts and shapes and all that stuff if you want to. I think I want to do the textured side up. I have got to be the messiest gluer there is. Okay, about like that. Now when it comes to putting it on my toilet paper core, I do 2 passes of ATG tape just to make sure it's going to stick super good, especially because the surface is painted. Okay, like that. And then what I like to do, this is going to be my cover. So what I like to do is I like to flip it this way, just as if I'm going to be assembling the book. And on the interior pages, I want the smooth side of my brown paper up. That will be more forgiving for stamping and various things like that. Remember, 2 passes of your tape, or if you wanted to use score tape for this part, you could too. Uh-oh, got my hair in there. Doesn't surprise me. My hair is to my waist almost, and it's everywhere. Just kind of line that up where you want it. Okay, moving on. Now, for this, because I'm kind of persnickety about it, I think I want the blue though. I line the two cores up together and then kind of just eyeball the patterned paper or the page I'm going to put in there so it's even with the one before it. See? Then we flip it again. Move on to the next. I also like to run my ATG tape right at the very edge, which is why I always have to fold it under. Right at the very edge of my paper. Line them up. So. Just making sure that all of my open edges are where they're supposed to be. I can't tell you how many times I have made these albums and screwed that part up. So now I'm kind of like OCD about it and I double, triple check it. The hardest part about making this album, aside from making sure you get your holes in your paper all going the right direction, is waiting for the paint to dry. It really is. You could heat set your paint, your toilet paper cores, if you want your paint to dry faster. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Usually I paint them at night, right before I go to bed, and then get up in the morning and finish the album after the kids and my nephew all go to school. Super sticky with 2 passes. Now this piece right here becomes your back cover, and you can decide if you want to do just the same repeating pattern that you've been doing. Well, we would put the textured side up, but I think I just want to do brown, and I don't want as big of a margin for this, so instead of cutting the paper 4 by 2 1/4, I'm going to cut it 4 1/8 by 2 1/4. Let's see what this does. I still don't like that. So let's try one more time. And actually try 4 1/4 by 2 1/4. Okay, I still don't like that, so we're just going to go ahead and go with the repeating pattern from the front cover. Textured side up. Remember, I'm trying to squish this video in before my kids get home from school, so I don't have a lot of time to mess around. Alright, so now you have your 4 or 5 decorated cores, okay, and you can see the difference. This is the textured side up, so that's the front cover, and the textured side back is up, so that's the back cover. Then what you would do, and this is the part I can't show you on camera because I don't know where my Crop-A-Dile is you would come in and you would punch right here and punch right here, and then line it up with the second piece, and you can either draw your circle or you can shove it in your Crop-A-Dile. I shove mine in my Crop-A-Dile and cut and cut, and do that for all 4 pieces, and then insert your binder rings or set your eyelets if you want to. This is optional too. I do it to help add stability to the holes because they are just punched in cardboard. So you would punch your holes, set your eyelets, and then add your binder rings and put it all together. And I don't like the alligator mouth when the books, you know, instead of laying flat like this, they end up like sticking out like this. So like fully closed, the book still lays open like this. And so I use bigger rings if I have to. This is going to be a very simple album for my mom, just with pictures of the grandkids from Christmas this year. And so this one isn't going to have too much embellishment, so the 3/4 rings were just fine. But you can also use 1.5 inches, 2, 3, whatever you think you want. For this one, I used 1.5 inches ring because there are buttons and flat-backed pearls and metal adornments, and that all gives more bulk to the album, and I still wanted it to lay as flat as possible, and so I just used a bigger ring to make that happen. So I hope you enjoyed this real quick video on how to begin your toilet paper roll album. It is now kind of a cardinal sin in my house to throw away a toilet paper core, and I have people from church and everyone saving them for me so I can make tons and tons of these albums. Once my kids get home from school and I find my Crop-A-Dile and I have some quiet in the house again, I will go ahead and do another video showing you how you can decorate your album and put it all together, punching your rings and all of that. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.